A meager 15% of America's territorial waters are available for oil and gas exploration. The Minerals Management Service estimates that 101 billion barrels of oil and 480 trillion cubic feet of natural gas of proven reserves are awaiting exploration in the outer continental shelf. Opening these areas would generate hundreds of thousands of new jobs and generate hundreds of billions of dollars in government revenue. This study, according to an analysis from 3 economists working for the Heritage Foundation in 2012, really comes back to the position of the affirmative team, that you should not deny growth and the ability to really improve the economic standing of hundreds of thousands, millions of people, unless you have a clear and present reason not to. And we do not believe that that reason was ever provided by the negative team in today's debate round. So with that said, I'm going to be crystallizing all of the issues that have been brought up into 3 main voting issues. Essentially what we want you as the judges to remember, if you remember nothing else that the affirmative team said in today's debate round, we want you to remember these 3 things. So let's get started. The first voting issue you can tag as that of energy. And this will deal with some of the more technical arguments about how we won't be accessing the energy. So subpoint A under this is prices decrease. And then if you want, you can add in parentheses, all things equal. Now essentially, in cross-ex, the negative speaker agreed that all things being equal, if supply increases, prices should decrease. That's just standard economics. So really, when you're claiming supply increases causes price increases, that's A, illogical, and B, probably not causation. Now, a perfect example of this, probably one of the most famous examples, is that the amount of bananas that we import from Mexico is directly correlated to the amount of car wrecks that occur in the United States every single year, but that doesn't mean that one causes the other. Correlation is not causation. That's my second response, no causation. They never gave you any reason to believe that increased supply was what would cause prices to increase. We can assume that because it's a global market, it was other factors. Let's move to subpoint C, which is that we've not claimed. Essentially, we never even claimed that this would actually be an advantage. So they can't run solvency against an advantage of gas prices that we never claimed. And if you go back to their very first speech, they actually read evidence saying that prices would only decrease by 3 cents. So their own evidence is really contradicting itself here, and we don't believe that this argument stands. My final response under this is 86 versus 101, and this comes back to the evidence they read saying currently 86 billion barrels are open. The evidence I just read in the opener said 101 billion barrels are still awaiting exploration. That's a significant reason to prefer the affirmative ballot. We are clearly significant and we fulfill that stock issue. Let's move down now to voting issue number 2, which you can tag as evidence. Now I have a couple of arguments under this. The first subpoint under this voting issue is expert analysis. I want to refer you back to Joseph Mason, whose study is entitled "The Cost of Imposing the Moratorium on the OCS." This is clearly talking about the current moratorium we're repealing, and he's analyzing professionally, as a PhD in economics, what would happen if we repealed the ban. That would create substantial benefits. Also, the 3 economists I just read from the Heritage Foundation, Thomas J. Pyle, who we quoted in our 1AC, the expert analysis agrees with the affirmative team. Subpoint B under this argument you can tag as 11 to 14 trillion. Now this is an argument about GDP that has gone back and forth, how much is really occurring here. We believe that in context the 14 trillion does apply, but even we'll bring up another similar number from Joseph Mason in 2009 that says, quote, "The broadest measure of effective increased OCS oil and natural gas extraction is GDP. In total, the investment and production phases together can be expected to contribute over 11 trillion in GDP. So the worst case scenario under the evidence is that Thomas J. Pyle is wrong and that it's only $11 trillion in growth. We believe that's not a bad worst case scenario to be facing. The third and final subpoint under this voting issue is no negative evidence. Now they've been claiming that the affirmative has to uphold this standard of bringing up evidence to support every single one of their claims, but they haven't brought up a single piece of evidence saying specifically repealing the OCS moratorium wouldn't create the jobs. In fact, they dropped their responses to every single advantage except advantage 3 in the last speech. So we can clearly see that the other advantages are enough reason to prefer the affirmative ballot. The final voting issue is the economy. Ultimately, this comes back to the impact of livelihood and really is the crux of the reason that we believe you should prefer an affirmative ballot. Thank you.